There are two things that ogres think about more than anything else: fighting and food. Fortunately for Clob Bloodbelly, a battle and a meal are now both on the menu, in this short story by Nick Horth. Tyrant Clob Bloodbelly watched as the gates of the garrison fortress of Inax yawned open. A score of horsemen galloped through them, followed by an enormous steam carriage, its chimney funnels spitting greasy smoke high into the air. Clob's shaggy eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "What are these lots playing at, then?" he said. This is not what usually happened when his war-glut sought to crack open a fortress. Normally the tyrant's ogres had to pound and pound upon the human stone walls with their cannons and hammers before they could pry the stubborn inhabitants out and gobble them up. Most of the oncoming man-folk wore feathered helms and breastplates. They carried lances with fluttering banners and had their pistols stowed in holsters and belt loops. A tall man clad in elaborate black plate rode at their fore upon a heavy, barded war-horse. Clob had been about to give the order to his iron blasters to begin their bombardment, but now it seemed that tonight's victuals were intent on delivering themselves straight into the cooking pot. The horsemen came to a halt, perhaps 100 strides away, and one of their numbers, bearing a red and white checkered banner, began frantically waving at Clob and his boys. The tyrant looked at his iron guts, who shared his bewilderment, and shrugged. "Let's see what they're about," he said, "before we eat 'em." He swaggered unhurryingly over to the riders, Thundermace propped on his blubbery shoulder. Despite being sat astride a particularly healthy-looking steed, most of the humans barely came up to the level of the ogre tyrant's many chins. Only the black-armored warrior was tall enough to look down upon him, and so he did, with a thinly masked expression of disgust. The man's chest was littered with medals and little colored scraps of ribbon, and his helm was fashioned in the image of the lion's maw. Clob peered back at him through the piggish eyes, and ran a blistered tongue across his lips. "Good eatin', that one," and there was a murmur of agreement from his iron guts. To Clob's surprise, the rider did not quail in fear. Instead, he trotted his horse forward and began to unfurl a scroll, clearing his throat dramatically before reading aloud from it. "I am Captain Jean Cœur Courtiller, of the Exnean Ember Guard," he said, "veteran of the Caledonian Crusades, hero of the Black Point, and slayer of the Grot King Gurk Toestabba. It is my honor to parley with you on behalf of the conclave of the Ashen Fortress." The human gave an elaborate bow and an odd little flourish of his hand. Clob gazed back blankly and let out a great, meaty belch. If he was disappointed by this reaction, the knight did not show it. Instead, he read on. "The master of this garrison, General Azero San Santor, wishes to inform you that she cannot countenance your trespassing upon lands rightfully belonging to the God King. Nonetheless, she does not wish for unnecessary bloodshed between our peoples. Thus she proposes a cessation of hostilities." "What's one of those, then?" "A truce," said the knight, "and more than that, an alliance. We can offer enough meat for you to fill your bellies for the next dozen seasons." "Can we eat 'em yet, boss?" said Herc. The iron gut was dribbling into his straggly beard, his hungry eyes fixed upon the rider. The captain continued, "For the past 12 nights we've been assailed by foul mordants from the ruins of Castle Midrare, who hurl themselves against our walls and drag our brave soldiers away to their feast tables." Feast tables? The words filled Clob's mouth with drool. "Unite with us against the deranged horde, and not only shall we provide you with as much food as you can eat, but you may also devour your fill of the soulless creatures of the night. At battle's end, you will depart from these lands forevermore. There will be no need for senseless violence. What say you to your offer, ogre? Bob rubbed his greasy scalp and tried to ignore the furious rumblings of his stomach. It had been a hard march through the Coven peaks, and across the barren ash folds that surrounded Ixnea. The cracked rib warglut had been forced to live off the land as they rumbled along the meat fist maw path, quite literally, in fact, by gobbling up boulders, black cactuses, and other foul-tasting muck. It was only the gut feeling of the slaughter master, Blaga, that had caused them to veer off track in search of juicier treats, and led them to stumble upon the slate-gray walls of the Free Guild fortress. Not the biggest manfolk stronghold that the cracked rib had ever stamped to rubble, but more than enough to fill Blaga's larder full of dried meat for a few days at least. The tyrant longed for the taste of hot gore, and the feel of bones crunching between his teeth, spilling their delicious marrow. "Much feel like waiting for my food," said Clob, his guts growling aggressively. "Why don't I just fill my belly with you lot, since you're here?" Wide-eyed and fearful, the soldiers fumbled for stowed rifles and hand cannons. Only the black-armored knight was unruffled, even as the iron guts hefted their mace and cleavers, each big enough to easily chop through the man's war-horse in a single swipe. "Wait now," he roared. "We came here not just to parley. We do, of course, offer a gesture of good intent, one that will surely assuage your hunger." He gestured to the steam carriage and bellowed an order. The metal covering of the vehicle creaked open, and a most delicious banquet of aromas met the tyrant's nostrils. Salted meat, the sour tang of pickles and spirits, and the mouth-watering stench of ripe cheeses. "We offer this shipment as a gesture of goodwill," said the captain. "There are far more to come, if you swear your blades to the service of Ixnea. The harvest has been generous this season. Our warehouses are stuffed with ash eel, mountain rhinoxen, and fire corn. It can all be yours, without risking a single death amongst your people." "Let me pull off his legs," whined Herc. Without looking back, Clob jabbed an elbow, and felt the iron gun's nose crunch satisfyingly under the blow. His small, cruel mind played over the odds. It took a mighty effort to dismiss the growling in his belly that demanded he bring his thunder mace down on the human skull and gobble his splattered brains. But Clob had not risen to the lofty position of tyrant without being a wily old brute. Maybe they would take the humans' food. Maybe they would indeed join them in battling a bunch of rot-fleshed ghouls. And once they gobbled up both, well, if they still felt hungry, there would always be the rest of the city to devour. He grinned an evil grin, and let out a great booming laugh. "Right then, Little Meat, reckon we got a deal." Relief flashed across Ker Cortrail's face as he smiled broadly. "Excellent." Clob cleared his throat noisily and spat a brownish lump of unspeakable matter into his palm, and then he offered his hand for the human to shake. The man's smile transformed into an expression of utmost horror, but none the less Captain Ker Cortrail gingerly reached out to clasp the ogre's palm, his gauntleted hand childlike in Clob's meaty paw, and they shook on the deal. The cracked rib warglut was thoroughly enjoying themselves. Not only had the food provided by the humans been just the thing after months of unpalatable roughage, but no sooner had night fallen than the ghouls indeed returned to prey upon the people of Ixnea, only to run straight into a wall of blubber and iron that was Clob's warglut. Now, beneath a hazy crimson moon, a vicious battle was taking place along the walls of the garrison, as Free Guild soldiery fought side by side with ogre gluttons against a horde of maddened cannibals. As the pale, long-limbed mordants skittered over Ixnea's wood and iron palisades, The ogres clubbed them into paste with their mauls and hacked them apart with rusty cleavers. Humans shot scores more down with volleys of musketry, finishing the rest with spears and halberds. Wiped a gore-smeared fist across his lips, savoring the taste of salty, rotten blood. "Lovely stuff," he murmured, grinning broadly. Another blast echoed across the battlefield as Grubbus fired Pig Roaster, the tribe's prized iron blaster cannon. A cloud of grape shot vomited from its rusty barrel and turned a pack of nearby ghouls into a pyre of ruptured meat. A screeching gaggle of mordants scampered towards Clob, and the tyrant closed one eye, drew a pistol from his belt and fired. A cloud of lead balls shredded one of the creatures, though not the one he had been aiming at, and a sweep of his thunder mace shattered the limbs of another. The last leapt upon the tyrant's back, raking with dagger-like claws. Muttering curses, Clob grabbed the annoying little wretch and took a great bite out of the back of its skull, before throwing the rest of the scrawny carcass away. Captain Kerr Cudgeler approached on foot, his great sword wetted with black blood, followed by a blurry band of soldiers in bucket helms, each wielding a great two-handed sword with a strange wavy blade. "To me, ogre!" shouted the mustachioed man. "The enemy has slipped through our defenses and attacked our ammunition wagons. We must drive them from the field." He frantically gestured at the bottom of the hill, where a circle of steam carriages was being swarmed by a tide of gangly, pale-skinned figures. There was a sorry little band of human hand-gunners manning a desperate defense, but even as Clob watched he saw several of the soldiers dragged down and torn apart in a messy spray of entrails and blood. The gory sight made Clob's belly rumble anew, as he picked bits of crunched-up ghoul skull out of his teeth. "Make safe the wagons before it's too late," Kerr Cudgeler demanded. "Right enough," nodded the tyrant. Cupping his hands, he turned towards his iron blasters and yelled out, "Oi, Grubbutt, give these scrawnies a taste of cannon shot." The ogre atop the immense weapon nodded and began to lash his Rhinox mount, slowly angling the shaggy beast towards the spot that Clob had indicated. "Wait!" shouted Kerr. "Are you mad? There are 24 tons of fire powder in the wagons. A single stray shot could cause—" His complaints were cut off by a deafening blast, as Grubbutt fired a cannonball down at the tide of mordants. It missed his intended target by the length of several tree trunks, pulverizing a pair of black-armored freegilders. In a spray of crimson mist, bounced once, and then struck the largest of the steam carriages dead center. The vehicle crumpled like a squashed fruit. A second later, an immense fireball burst out of the ruptured metal carcass, sweeping out to envelop not only the nearby host of undead, but also a few remaining humans, their wooden barricades, and all 6 neighboring ammunition carriages. All of these went up in a chain of blossoming detonations, momentarily illuminating the night sky in a blinding orange glow. When the light faded, Clob peered down to see a vast section of garrison ablaze. Sheets of white flame devouring thatched rooftops hungrily, setting off secondary explosions and releasing thick plumes of black smoke. Humans and Mordans alike were dashing about in a blind panic, many of them wreathed in flame like living torches. "Good shot," Clob said with satisfaction, raising his thunder mace towards Grubbutt in approval. "Throne of Azir," murmured Captain Kerr Cudgeler, his face white as a ghost. "That's our entire storehouse you just destroyed. 12 seasons of provisions, all our weapons, all our stored grain and meat." Clob's good humor evaporated. He frowned. "All of it?" Hypnotized by the glowing inferno, Captain Kerr could only nod. Clob Bloodbelly reached out and put a hand on his shoulder, then began to squeeze. "You're telling me," said the tyrant, speaking very slowly, That you ain't got any food left? Kerr looked up at him, horrified realization spreading across his face and those of his soldiers. Clob's iron guts lumbered forward to surround them, greedily brandishing their oversized weapons. Clob smiled, exposing yellow teeth, and leaned down until his face was pressed against that of the trembling officer. Stringy drool splattered onto Cortuller's polished boots. I guess we'll have to find our own then, won't we?